Hello and welcome once more to the pen testing bootcamp here on Security in Mind. So today we're going to talk about methodologies. Now there are of course a wide choice you can go ahead and choose from, but in general they all kind of the same to my opinion. I think the important part is that you actually choose one and you follow it. Because all of them, they might introduce 5 phases or 7 phases, it doesn't really matter. It all depends whether you want to break down your phases to different phases. Maybe you would like to have, a reconnaissance phase that is both active and, not active. But you might want to break it down to do 2 different phases, because it depends on how you want to work and what kind of report you want to fill out afterwards. Also depends on, people hiring for the job. So really, it isn't just, choosing a methodology and stick to it always, Sometimes you need to, use another methodology in order to fulfill the job requirements. So I chose to talk about 2 today. The one called the Open Source Security Testing Methodology Manual is quite popular, and then the one you can find on, well, it's not one, but it's like an overview of different types of pen testing methodologies you can find on OWASP. Now, typically, I do not start with the conclusion, but I just want to say the general idea is still the same. Like, you have these 5 phases or 7 or 6 or whatever. It doesn't really matter that much because you just need to stick to one framework and then use that. Or if you are hired by a company, say, but we need you to use this framework, and they say, okay, I don't know that framework, or I know it. Maybe you are educated using the let's say the Open Source Security Testing Methodology Manual. Then it's the isec.com .org, you look at. But then one day they ask you to use something else from NIST or the PCI compliant testing methodology. Maybe they have their own. Now, basically what this lesson is all about is to teach you the idea that to follow a methodology basically just means that you are doing your job in a certain way, in a certain order, which is good. So let's look at just one of them. It's called the Open Source Security Testing Methodology Manual, and I think this is the newest slide. And if you scroll down a bit to the index, you'll see that there's a quite, there's a few pages to read, around 208 pages, and they kind of tell you what you need to know and stuff like that, security analysis, and also operation security metrics, getting to know and everything. They got some different kind of ways for you to calculate things and risk and stuff, but the actual flow of how to do some audits and testing different kind of security, you can go ahead and, for example, say I want to use one methodology, and then you can find, a way to go ahead and do your pen test. This is a bit more advanced one, but it's probably also a one that a bigger company would like, because you can generate a big report, and that looks nice, but if you're not all into all that, you can also go ahead and just read about the general, wireless security testing. And they talk about different kind of things like considerations and policies and different kind of things. But I think this particular document, without going through it like A to Z, because it's going to be a very long video, it's something you need to read it. And I guess when you get the quick start and to start with it, you need to track what you need to test, the targets, how to test them, the parts that this target tested, and not the tools or technique used. So that is the 1.5 first line you read in the document, and from that you can go ahead and follow the document from there. And we go down to the index one more time. Alright. And then you can go ahead and read about different kind of, areas and stuff like that, security analysis, critical thinking, how to do that. Understanding a document like this kind of require you to, well, read it. So that is one of the things you need to do. I'm not really gonna say much about this because it's the general idea is the same methodology setup that I already introduced. This is the one that I will introduce to you, and what I wanna make you understand is that if you are reading a document like this, you will get another perspective to the pen testing methodology, which is what I recommend you do. Now, there's also another one here in the OS project. It's methodologies, so it's more than one. It's in plural. So there are different kind of OS testing guides. Some of them it's not active, but there are the pen testing execution standard, the PCI, and everything. So they also point to the open source security testing methodology down here below, which is pointing to the exact same document as we just opened before. So this is more like an overview of different kind of things, like testing methodologies you can go ahead and choose. For example, you can say like, okay, so I want to use some OS testing guides for web security testing guide. Then you go ahead and say I want to choose a stable version, and then you just gonna find something to look at, and they talk about, threat modeling and source code review and all that. And that is because when you do a pen test, the general, pen test that is better than the black box ones is the one that's in between. So where the pen tester actually get access to the source code and they can see what's going on, that's gonna bring a lot more value to the actual pen test. Now, I know some companies might say, but hackers cannot see our source code. I know they cannot, but if you assume the worst, then the best can happen. So I really want to make you think that a pen test is not always just sitting down and cracking your 5 tools and running some automated tests and stuff like that. It is also about looking at inputs and really trying to get through it. So I'm gonna click the one he called here pen testing methodologies, going back to the overview, and there is a PCI payment card industry pen testing guide, and there is a, let's see, I think this link should point us to something. Let me just see. Yeah, then there is a guidance document. As you can see, they also talk about different kind of things: methodology, pre-engagement, scoping, engagement, different kind of layers in the OSI model, and so on. So pen testing itself is not really, an easy thing. Now, what this bootcamp is really gonna focus more on is the actual act of, gaining access to either web page, or exploiting some different kind of services to get through, right? So I guess the conclusion is that there are many kind of, methodologies out there, and I cannot in one short video cover anything widely enough for you to understand everything in the document. You kind of need to read it. Now, there's also another way to test your code, and that is the ASVS, the Application Security Verification Standard. That is another standard that OS tried to write. It's not really a standard, but they call it anyways. So you can go ahead and, if you take the English PDF here, you open that, then it's a small document that's gonna talk about, I think it's 14 different ways to develop and follow different kind of rules. Let me see if I can find an overview here. I wouldn't necessarily say this is a pen test guide, but it is at least some rules to follow when you develop something for web. And if you follow those, it's kind of the opposite of a pen test. It's kind of more like securing your software in a certain way so that it's not, you know, let's see, that you cannot break it, right? So I couldn't find an overview, but the first one is called Secure Software Development Lifecycle, and if you go to the top, you can see that there are, oh, there's here, yeah, down to 14 different ones. So the first one is called, the second is Authentication Architecture, third Session Management and stuff. Reading about Session Management, they give you some like verify the input-output requirements, clearly define how to handle and process database and type, content, application laws, regulations, and other policy compliance. So that is of course a big sentence, but you need to do that. Verify the input validation is enforced on a trusted service layer. Now, if it's not, you know, you can probably pen test, which is why if you get access to, you know, code and the actual development document before you do a pen test, which is why you do it, you have a much better pen testing success or not success, because you know you don't waste your time on this and that because it's already secured, or you know that, oh, there's probably something here, you're gonna try and get access and see what happens really. So really, you know, finding the golden nugget is what you're gonna try and do in this pen test. So I guess the overall conclusion is that there are many out there. The general idea is it's the same kind of 5 steps. And I really suggest you go ahead and read one of those big documents of both of them, you know, or even more, and seek for more knowledge, you know. Choose your own methodology is the way to go. And when you're hired, you know, you have the experience with one already, which will make it easier for you to adapt to other methodologies depending on requirements and the job and, you know, of course, the customer. All right. So that's it for this video. I really hope you use it for something, and hope to see you again in the next video. Have a nice one. Bye.